Rolling sound, quiet. Here we go. Eating. 1.67. And starting with and action.
Hey everybody, I'm Nick Utter. I'm a freelance director of photography based in the Fort Worth area, and I'm here with some studio owners. We're going to sort of chat about sort of some of the studio offerings here in Fort Worth. So we're here with Doug Mangold, Red Sanders, Tim Eaton, and so guys, tell me a little bit about your studio space. Doug, you want to go for it?
Yeah, our studio space, 4 stages. We've got a 3-wall green screen. Obviously, we're sitting on the 2-wall psych for photography. We have a studio lounge as well as a full shooting kitchen.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Voiceover booth, client screening, hair and makeup, production office, camera room, covered parking, sound engineered by Russ Berger out of Carrollton, and that's basically about it.
Awesome. Red, what you got?
My name is Red Sanders, founded Backlot Studio and Workspace here. We're just on the south side, on South Main. And it's a workspace and studios. It's like 12,000 square feet total, but it's, part of that's the studio. It's like 4,000 square feet, and then the other part's the workspace for other creative companies here in Fort Worth. And we opened it midway through last year, and yeah.
Awesome.
It's called, I don't know, I said Backlot.
Backlot.
Yeah, okay.
Right, Tim?
This is Lowtown.
I'm Tim Eaton. I'm with the studios at TCN. That building's been there since 1984. It was Studios 121. It was Firestone Communications. It was Telemundo. It broadcast 7 different networks at one time. We have a 800, a 1,200, 2,000 square foot, and a brand new 4,000 square foot studio. We do live shots, so if you see Fort Worth on CNN, MSNBC, or Fox, or Bloomberg, or any of those, normally it's shot in our building. So we have our building is soundproofed by Russ Berger also, so he's a very popular name around here and that done great work there. But 4 studios, full production company, but we're owned by the Country Network, which is our distribution arm, which is country music and country music videos, and we shoot a lot of product for the Country Network, a lot of music.
Awesome. So, I mean, you guys could have built up anywhere. Why Fort Worth?
I mean, Fort Worth's always been home base for us. I've got a company, Red Productions, and when we were over here in West 7th on Foch years ago, a lot of people were moving to the neighborhood, and we thought, like, what would be a fun thing we could do, and we actually teamed up with others in the neighborhood there and put on these like movie screening series outside that we just called Backlot. And that's really where it got started initially. It was just doing something to give back to the community and doing something that's fun. And when we moved over to South Main, we kind of had already started the co-work side of that, and we got to expand that there and thought, well, let's do a studio now as well. And when we did that, we worked with the city to help kind of pave way for others that want to build something out in Fort Worth, and created the Media Production Development Zone. And that's just an incentive for people that build any kind of infrastructure within the near south side for video and film production. And there's, because we just wanted it to do something where it's like, we think the rising tide lifts all boats. And so how did we kind of like create something there that works for us, but also could pave the way for others as Fort Worth continues to grow and grow its creative class.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm from Fort Worth. I live in Fort Worth, and when we started this project, we hired consultants, one of which is a local filmmaker, Chris Rodriguez, to kind of help us concept and figure out what is Fort Worth missing. Basically, when people think of film, they want to go to Dallas or Austin, right? So what's Fort Worth missing? So that was kind of the drive around everything, was just bring something to Fort Worth. We're not trying to compete with the big dogs. We're a smaller boutique studio that kind of has a little bit of everything for everyone.
Absolutely. I know you were a little bit more locked into Fort Worth already.
I was there the day that the owner of Studios 121 said, go sell everything off, fire everybody, and close it down. And I said, can I have a couple of weeks to see if we can salvage the building? They had an offer on the building to turn it into a widget factory, and they were going to take all the soundproofing out. They were just going to gut the building. So it was more of trying to save that studio at the time, just to make sure. But I'm the only one in my family not born in Fort Worth. I'm a Mansfield boy. So I think we're all kind of that same way. We grew up here. We're not going anywhere. And I think we all have that same attitude. Fort Worth has, we embrace our culture here, where Dallas sometimes kind of runs away from theirs, but they've got the 40-foot high ceilings for big studios. We don't, but we do have that boutique. We're able to do a lot of things here. We're all doing commercials, national commercials out of our studios. So I got lucky, happened to be in the right place at the right time to be able to do what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm. Red, I love what you said about the rising tide raises all boats. Mm-hmm. I think it's super important, like the whole community getting that creative, those production companies coming and just giving that spark to the area. Have you guys worked on anything sort of that you're real proud of in your studios lately?
We had a project, it was one of our first projects in here. It was a Japanese electric car company that unveiled 2 of their new electric smart cars. And they had a production company out of Houston that called me up and said, you guys are the only 3-wall green screen we can find in Texas. So they came up here, and for 2 days they set up sound and lights, and it was a virtual event, a live virtual event that was broadcast over all of the social platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and then a couple of the other ones. That was probably one of the coolest ones that we've had in here so far.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing that's really inspiring to me is like what the different members are doing at Backlot, and just seeing how members are using the studio to bring their own kind of ideas to life. And not that it's only for members, like members just get a discount and use the space, it seems more, but it's, we've, like 12 Midnight shot Abraham Alexander's music video. We had other agencies that come in to use it, like Balcom did the Cook Children's TV spots there. Verydesk is a client we work with at Red Productions, and they shot their whole like catalog campaign there. All of these were pre-COVID. And then, but I think one, like during COVID that was really cool was just like all the different live streams that have happened there and how we can make it a safe space for that. And there was one that's called Reconciling the City that a local group hosted that was just kind of a roundtable on race relations in Fort Worth and like what can we do better as a community. And it was neat to see like people coming together even during these wild times, like to have those important discussions and to use the space to, get a message out like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think a couple of the last projects that I thought were really cool. Number one, we did Charlie Pride's first music video in 38 years. We shot in our studio. In the same studio though, Showtime came in and they had one interview, but they had a 20-member crew. They were doing projections, they were doing lights. It was a black box, and it was just really interesting to see when Showtime comes to town, what kind of budgets they put into those shows. We've talked about it earlier. Those budgets don't come around very often nowadays. But I think being able to see that kind of stuff where a national firm comes in and takes over and just what we would look at is go, wow, we could have done that a little less expensive, but that's the type of people that they're bringing in. And then we just recently did one of the, I know we're going to talk about it in a minute, the virtual stuff. We did one with Mercedes-Benz, and it was their national meeting out of that room. So we had 6 of their executives 6 feet apart, and they were talking to everybody in the world. Our Nashville office, we just did a world tour, radio tour with Lindsay L. So she sits there and she's doing the virtual talking to people in the UK and in Germany and being able to play for them and talk to them. Things that they couldn't do going out, but that's kind of the cool stuff that we're all seeing. It's new business. And you're right, we all have to work together. In the new world, it's about how can you partner, and we call it strategic alliances. Everybody needs to be able to find a way to work. If I have something he doesn't have, I should be able to help him. If he has something that I don't have, we should be able to work together. But I think that's the only way we're going to get out of this mess going forward, because it's going to take a while.
And absolutely, and I love sort of everyone sort of working together in the area. You don't, I've worked in a lot of studios in different cities and all that, and you don't typically find that. It's a little bit more cutthroat, I've found. And so it's nice that everyone's just sort of slightly collabs here a bit more. Just giving you guys a chance to sort of promote your studio. I'm a gearhead, so I love sort of like a la carte lights. Like, what can your studio offer? Like, your sound booths, all of that, I think everybody would love to hear just sort of what people could expect to find sort of at each of your places.
We've got a full line of gear. We've got it's all new, state of the art Kino Flow lights, light mats, Geminis, M18s, the new Arri Alexa Mini LF, Canon C300, Red Gemini. It's a little bit older of a camera. Just our 2-ton Sprinter with grip and electric package, but just kind of, and that's one of the things you're trying to keep up with all that stuff too over time. But right now everything is new, and full line of pro photo gear for photographers that come in, which has been quite rewarding for us, because we've had Dixie Dixon in here and she's a pro photo gear head, so she likes that gear. And just we tried to kind of cover our bases with the gear that everybody's going to be wanting when they come in. We think we've done that.
Absolutely. Red, I mean, you guys got a ton of stuff at your place, and you can rent an office space too.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think we maybe have one of the oldest lights in Fort Worth. We got this really cool big 10K big eye that when we were looking closer at it, it's got a Walt Disney tag on it. It used to be at Disney Studios.
You save on heating costs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Don't turn it on in the summer.
Turn it on Monday though.
But yeah, so there's everything from like a 3-ton tungsten package like that to a 3-ton LED HMI package that you can get with the studio. The site comes pre-lit if you want it on, and then there's lots of camera offerings our team has, and yeah, I mean, I think from the gear side there, it is something like you said where there's always new stuff coming out, but it's also cool to see like what you can still do with like. I was watching Letterman's new Next Guest, My Next Guest Needs No Introduction show last night, and it's like that same 10K is like in the background almost as a prop there. I think we've probably used that one as a prop just as much.
A la carte, use it as a prop on a stand.
And then non-actual, just going back to natural lighting side, like one thing we really liked was the studio consultant we worked with when building it, like there were windows in this wall, and at first you would think like, oh, let's cover those up. And he was like, no, let's put soundproof glass in there and then allow that natural light to come in, and you can see downtown through it if you want like to embrace that in it, or it's got the ability to shade that out if you want. So we just like I think everyone tried to do is like just how do you make the space versatile, because you don't know what creative is going to be coming in, what people want to do there. So.
And you can't always have everything that everybody wants. Though.
It's a gear chase.
It really is.
Yeah. And if you don't have what they want, you can rent it. It's available.
Yeah.
So
it's
I think the same.
somewhere.
We've got a lot of older lights, but I think for us the new gear that we're using is the 2 vMix machines, 3 vMix machines, so we can take our podcast rooms upstairs and we can run them down to the broadcast control room. We can bring in Nashville, run to that, and we're bypassing Zoom. So we're working system to system and not having to use Zoom. So it's that new technology trying to figure out in the new world what is going to come in. We don't know what's coming in, but we do know that the virtual world is really starting to get bigger. I mean, when COVID first started, everybody was watching Zooms that were poorly done, and we're all going, is this the video production of the future? I mean, is this what we're all going, and to me, at one point, everybody that had a phone was a filmmaker. Now, everybody that can do a Zoom can do any type of shows. But our studios, all 3 of our studios, has the ability to light it right, use professional equipment, good microphones, and send a good signal out. You can bring somebody else in on a Zoom, and it might not look as good, but your host is coming from a professional studio, and it looks good. And I think all 3 of us have that capability.
I think on that note, sort of one thing that sort of connected everyone, all the freelancers, all the studios, everybody got hit pretty hard with COVID. I mean, I think I had 20-something cancellations in March, and so I can't even imagine on the studio scale how many cancellations that is. So, what was your COVID pivot?
Immediately put in a live streaming capability to let them know, because a lot of the issues were we can't bring our crews in because it's too many people. They don't want to stay at home because they're going to miss the footage and all that stuff. So we immediately implemented a live stream capability so they could bring, a minimal crew in here that they needed, as well as, broadcast that feed out to, like I said, we did something for Fort Worth Opera their entire panel just sat at home and watched the film as they were filming, you know, which was kind of nice. So, and it's something that right now that we're offering as a free service during COVID.
That's great.
I mean, the initial, like when COVID first hit, yeah, we saw both in Red Productions as well as then with all the members at Backlot, it was like everyone's work just went, like everything was canceled or postponed.
Gone.
So, you know, what we did was we just said, let's put together a little like town hall of all the members, and we would hop on, you know, a video chat and just all share like, hey, what are you seeing? What are ideas? What's working? And I tried to help also share some of the things I was seeing as far as what options were out there for people. Which later became like the PPP funding for, you know, like incentive funding through the SBA to help stimulate, you know, businesses that lost all their revenue or a significant part of it because of this. And it was neat to see too, because then, you know, members were basically able to kind of navigate some of those waters, get the funding they needed. Some got through PPP, some got through the EIDL loan, and they're reinvesting that back into their companies, buying new gear, and using this as a time to really kind of grow their offerings. And kind of similar to with live streaming, you mentioned, like, I remember the first day I told our staff we were going to be working remotely, someone came up and said, hey, we bought this live stream package a few months ago. It's been sitting there. We haven't had a need for it. Should we market that? I was like, that was a great idea.
Yeah.
And I don't even know how many live streams there's been now at the studio. It's just because, yeah, everyone that had an in-person event, you know, had to figure out a new way of doing that, and odds are they weren't well versed in live streaming, and we were able to help at least bridge that gap for them. So
I think we were the same way. I mean, all production went away, and we all did the same thing. We did the same thing. We got with the people in our building, because we have about 3 different other production companies in our building, and got with them and said, what can we do? What can we do together? And everybody has a different thing that they do. But when the PPE came out, it was great because it paid for your employees for 2.5 months, but there wasn't any work. So you got a chance to say, go learn something new, go learn a new software, learn more about the cameras, learn some new editing skills. So we made everybody get better at what they do during that time frame. But at the end of the day, I think we've all seen that we saw the virtual need and said, how do we parlay this? So that's when we started buying the vMix machines and setting everything up to where we could actually take and do the podcast. We added a new podcast room to say, you can come in by yourself and you can zoom that thing out, and you're sitting in a room by yourself 6 feet apart, because safety was a big issue.
Yeah.
You know, when we got that media production guideline from the governor, I think we all probably went, okay, we're doing all of this, but I got to do that. And I mean, when it changed catering to where now it was a boxed lunch and everything, you couldn't have chips and crackers and any kind of craft services like we're so accustomed to, it changed that. It changed your makeup artist. And so everybody had to adjust. And then somebody's got to be the bad guy, checking the temperature before they come in, making sure that they're staying apart. And when you've got executives that don't want to follow the rules, it's hard to try to navigate that environment because I don't need this mask, it's a fluke. And our guidelines say, sir, until you sit down in your chair, you need to be wearing that mask. So it changes the dynamics where we used to really cater to our talent and cater to the client. Now you have to kind of be a little more forceful to keep them all in line, because none of us want to be the guy that had a super spreader event in our studios. Nobody wants that.
Exactly.
What do you guys think is sort of like the biggest challenge with sort of running a studio or having a studio? What do you think is the biggest challenge?
During COVID?
Yeah.
Working with limited budgets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
goes
think that's
from-
probably our biggest challenge, is the budgets have just been cut in half pretty much. We've also, I was telling Tim, we opened our doors on the weekends. We've been working 7 days a week just to accommodate, you know, because people are like, oh, I'm back to work now. I can't shoot during the week. The only time I'm available, we can do it on Saturday, we can do it on Sunday. Are you guys open? And I'm like, yeah, we're open. We can accommodate you, you know. So, and we're a newer studio, so I'm kind of in the relationship building aspect of it too. So I'm doing everything I can right now for people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the challenge during COVID, I think, is just making sure keep everyone safe first and foremost. And there is a company in town, River Refresh. I saw like a little thing of what they were doing with that fogging stuff. That it was like the first time to see someone doing that. And I was like, this looks scientific. We need this. And we reached out to them and did some videos for them. And then they were like, they saw the studio and they were like, well, we can fog all the equipment here and all that. And we're like, oh, cool. So we kind of made that part of that process, especially early on, to like make it a safe space for everyone. I mean, yeah, budgets. I think were tight before COVID too. It's like there's always a mix of it, and we always try to be open to work with people, and don't want budget to get in the way of that. And we've set up the pricing different, like where you can do it hourly if you just need to pop in for something small.
That's awesome.
Things like that. So
yeah, I think it being flexible. I think that's just key. We had a client that through an ad agency that we did one project for them on a national firm, and then they came back and said, will you do this next one for the same? Well, it had a little bit more crew and some more equipment to it, but in order to get the project, you had to do that so that you could get that project. But I think it's just being flexible.
Yeah.
Every time someone comes in, we were always doing that before, working through the budget, but now we have to look at it, and it used to be a kind of a standard, you wanted to make a certain % profit.
Right.
Well, that's not there anymore. The scale of the budget's not there, and then your profit's not there, so you have to be able to find other ways to make that money, working on the weekends, doing whatever it is that it takes to get the job done. It's a new attitude and a new world, and I think we're all in it, just saying, what can I do to help? What do you need from me? And if I don't have it, I'm going to go help you find that.
No, it's great, especially coming from the freelance side, that studios are sort of adapting to be able to offer half-day rates or full-day rates or be accommodating, because big production budgets have gotten smaller, but everybody's got to work, so it's nice to find that wiggle room. So I think we're getting a little close to the end of our time, but I think it'd be cool just to have a little quick elevator wrap-up of like, what do you hope production moves to? What are your hopes with this?
I would love to say it would kind of go back to normal, but I think all of us can agree that might never happen. Everybody's probably used to working in lower budgets, so they're going to kind of use that as, hey, you did this for me before. So, but let's just, like Red said, keeping everybody safe. Let's just have a healthy America and just get back to work.
Yeah, I think too, like it's just like you said, people are changing the way they work, and that's always probably been the case, but we just experienced it very rapidly, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Quick pivot.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to try some new things. Like in a couple weeks, we're going to do a thing where it's just open studio days, and people can just pay like $50 to come and have access to the studio all day. It's not like one person gets it exclusively all day, but it just provides an open day for people to come and kind of, if they got an idea, they want to workshop, they pop in front of the site for a little bit, or maybe they're going to use somewhere else in the studio or one of the other rooms, they can do that. And it just lowers that barrier to entry, because that was our whole goal when we started Backlot, was like, how do we provide, at the beginning it was just shared office space, but now it's like dedicated workspaces or hot desk, but just overall, like, how do we lower the barriers to entry so that people can grow here in the creative class? And I think what the Film Commission's been doing has been fantastic too, and kind of being a beacon for the creative class here in Fort Worth. As our city grows, how do we make sure that that we're not growing in a way, because I saw this in other cities and in other industries even, where it was like people were like got really competitive and like secretive with stuff, and we're just like, it's funny because sometimes people come into Backlot to kick the tires, it's like take a tour, possibly check out the workspaces, and they're like, are you able to lock the doors on your office? And I was like, no
one can see.
We're all in this there are doors, our whole space is shared in there as well, and it's like we're not like, there are rooms you can lock your gear up in, but overall it's just meant to be a community space, kind of like we like seeing in the community of Fort Worth, and because that's something that I feel like makes Fort Worth really unique, is just how well people work together here, and how supportive everyone is from the city down to help us all grow. So and I think that growth goes with like growing back to what was that normal before, and what are the new ways we're going to work. So
absolutely, Tim.
Well, my hope is that advertising dollars come back. That will help all of our budgets. In April, more people were watching TV than ever, and less money was spent on advertising. So it was the first time that we had that weird juxtaposition that a lot more people watching, but the ad dollars weren't there. Those ad dollars will come back and help us all in production. Don't know when that's going to happen. And for me, as the country network, nobody's going on tour, so we're not getting those people coming through that would be on our shows here. So that's why we had to expand it in Nashville to make sure we could get those artists to get them come in and talk to us, because they're not going to tour. Some of them are not going to tour until late 2021. So from the music side, it's changed. From the business side that we're in, it's changed. The advertising dollars have changed. Budgets have changed. I don't know that we'll know until probably Q2 of 2021 where that new normal will be. But we've got to strudge through this. We got to keep fighting. And like I say, keep the oar in the water and just keep paddling until we can get there. But I don't know that anybody's got the crystal ball. But I know that as we all work together, I love the idea of getting together and talking more about what else can we do. Because if somebody has an idea and then we can spread that to where everybody can have a little piece of that pie, I think it helps us all.
Awesome.
All boats rise. All,
Yeah, what was it?
Rising tide lifts all boats.
there you go.
That's the quote.
That's the
Because we have a
quote the
lot
day.
of oceans around here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, cool guys. Well, really appreciate chatting about this. I think it helps everybody being pretty collaborative on it. So we got Doug with Lowtown, Red with Backlot, Tim with studios at TCN. So check them out. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.